There are two great new words, Riz and Delulu. Now, if you're not already using those words, you probably will be. They are starting to gain serious traction. Riz means when someone has a magnetism. It's short for charisma. It's one of the great contractions. Usually we contract the word either at the end or the beginning, but this one's right in the middle syllable. That person's got riz. They're compelling, alluring. And delulu, this great new word takes what was negative and turns it positive. It's from the word delusional, and that was used in completely negative ways. They're delusional. But delulu means when someone has unrealistic expectations, and that helps them pan out. It works out for them. It's being so wildly positive about their career possibilities or something. They're delulu. But it's a good thing. Oh, these words are gaining traction. And so I want to say to you in a real 2023 way, when we gather as church, we should have riz and be delulu. Oh, yeah. When we gather in the name of Jesus Christ, we should have riz because he had riz. He had a abiding, astounding charisma. Charisma is one of the great words of our tradition. It comes from a Latinized form of the Greek charis, which means kindness or grace, but as a divine gift. Well, Jesus is the divine gift. He doesn't just have charis or charisma, he is it. This divine kindness, he's got riz. You can see it in the Gospels. The divine light is shining so clearly through him, people are just magnetized and draw towards him and surround him. That divine light. But his riz is a combination of that divine power, but with a mission that is so pure and so beautiful to be alongside the downtrodden, to seek justice, to try to reduce suffering in the world. That combination has riz. Sometimes I think churches will rob him of a little bit of his riz because some churches just emphasize one side, his divinity. And it's all about that spiritual and metaphysical reality that Jesus is divine. It's awesome. But they leave out that other side, that mixer of seeking justice and a type of on-the-street compassion to people. Well, and other churches emphasize just that side. They don't talk at all about his divinity. It's all about just social justice, which is awesome, but his riz is in the combination. So when we gather in his name and we hold that combination together, oh, we have risen here right now. And when we gather in his name, we should be delulu. You see, church should have an unrealistic confidence, an unrealistic expectation that we could help make the world a better place. To really believe that together in his name, we can bring more kindness and compassion and justice into the world. I know it's delulu, but it's great that it's delulu, because then things might pan out if we really believe it. I know you want to say that word because it's so fun. So on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3, delulu. Oh, delulu. Love and faith will meet each other. Justice and peace will kiss. Did you see that line in the psalm? So when you're reading a poem like that, there should be certain lines that just leap out to you. And that line is of leaping beauty. Love and faith will meet. Justice and peace will kiss each other. So Hebrew poetry uses a lot of what's called parallelism, or it's a positive poetry where it repeats itself in a redundant way. Clauses will repeat just the same thing. Love and faith will meet one another. Justice and peace will kiss. And in that parallelism, the poem is trying to open to your mind that love, faith, peace, and justice are all one. They join together. I want to talk to you for a few moments how love, faith, justice, and peace kiss one another. Sometimes people think to be a Christian, you must first accept this kind of big old honking glob of theological beliefs. That there's this big chunk of theological propositions about God, Jesus Christ, the Holy Spirit, the Eucharist, and church, and there's creeds and catechisms. And if you accept that whole thing, well, then you're a Christian, and you can be in the church. But really, I don't think being Christian is so much a set of beliefs as a way of life or a love expressed. Love and faith meet. Our Christian faith is a love expressed. It's not just a set of theological doctrines. I have people sometimes come to me and say, so what exactly do I have to believe to be part of this church and to be a good Christian? And I'm going to tell you what I tell them, and you've never heard a preacher say it. You only have to believe a little bit. I mean a teeny tiny weensy bit. If you even have a slight impulse to love, or you hope to grow in love and faith will meet, justice and peace kiss one another. If you even have just this little desire to grow in love, then the journey begins, the Christian journey. Just a tiny bit. So many people think they've got to first accept all these doctrines and creeds, but really, if you just have that impulse and the journey begins, now the theology might end up being a wonderful way to edify that impulse and give you more wisdom and strengthen and bolster that impulse. But if you have just a little bit of belief, it's enough. I'm being totally in line with the gospel. Do you remember that Jesus says something twice about how you only need a tiny bit of faith? He says it twice. In Matthew 13 and Matthew 17, he talks about the mustard seed. I know you remember that, but remember first he says that a little mustard seed can grow into something so large and impressive. It can become this bush where birds make their nests, and it can be so something little can become something flourishing and large. But then he doubles down. 4 chapters later, he says, if you even have the faith of a mustard seed, this tiny little speck of faith, then you can move mountains. I think that's how it works. You see, if you're even a little bit curious about Jesus, that's a mustard seed. Oh, what could grow from that? If you just even sort of admire what he's about, that's a mustard seed. If you came here today for the cookie and coffee stuff, that's a mustard seed. Oh, what could come of that? If you're sitting here right now because your spouse dragged you here, that's a mustard seed. I hear mustard seeds all the time and I revel in them. People tell me all the time they only come here for the music. That's a mustard seed. Oh, what might become of that? If you're not sure at all what you believe, but you think you might have a desire to have faith, that's a mustard seed. So often, people imagine that being Christian is believing a lot of things about Jesus. But I would say to you, actually being Christian is believing Jesus. Oh, do you hear the distinction? It's not so much believing things about Jesus. Being Christian is believing Jesus. So that when Jesus says to us, "Blessed are the poor, for the kingdom of heaven is theirs," we actually believe him. Being Christian is not so much believing things about Jesus, it's believing what he says and who he is. When he says, "Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the gentle ones, they shall inherit the earth." You see, we believe him. When he tells a story about how the Son of Man comes in glory at the end of all time, and he sits in his throne, and he gathers the sheep and the goats, and the sheep will come to his blessed right side, and the goats to the left. And he says, the sheep come to the right side because when I was hungry, you fed me. When I was a stranger, you welcomed me. When I was in prison, you visited me. When I was sick, you tended to me. Do you believe him? To be Christian isn't to believe things about him. Do you believe him? When he says to us, what are the greatest commandments? To love God with all our heart, mind, and soul, and to love our neighbor as ourself. Do you believe him? Do you believe him that love is really what the essence of all religion is? When I'm talking about that big glob of theological beliefs, what is it about? It's about love. When Jesus says, "Love one another as I have loved you," do you believe him? This is the Christian walk. Believing him, not believing things about him. When he says, "Treat one another as you would want to be treated." When he says, "Do not judge, lest ye be judged." When he says, "Don't become angry," do you believe him? That's what it is to be a Christian, to believe him. In Luke chapter 4, he announces what he's about. He makes it crystal clear. He says, "The Spirit of the Lord has anointed me to preach good news to the poor, to give recovery of sight to the blind, to set free those who are in prison, to set loose the oppressed." Do you believe him? Oh, this Christian journey. Don't think it's about some big old glob of theological stuff. Do you remember Santa Claus is Coming to Town? Early 1970s, one of those weird stop-action animations. And it's the backstory, the origin story to how Santa Claus became Santa Claus. But the plot line is so bizarre, it's like an acid trip, really. Right? Do you remember Kris Kringle is a baby, and they put him on a doorstep. He's an orphan on the doorstep of Burgermeister Meisterburger, who's a real mean dude and doesn't want it. But then somehow a gust of wind blows the baby to the woods. Do you remember this? And then the animals start to raise the baby. And then a group of elves that teach him how to make toys. And as Kris Kringle starts moving towards becoming Santa Claus, he encounters the wicked warlock of winter. And that wicked warlock of winter says to Kris Kringle, I want to change. I want to move from being bad to good, but I can't. It's too hard. And Kris Kringle starts to laugh. It says, hard? It's not hard at all. Do you remember then he launches into a song? Put one foot in front of the other, and soon you'll be walking across the floor. Do you remember that song? Yeah. So this is the Christian walk. Just put one foot forward. If you even take one step towards Jesus Christ, one little step, the journey begins. A journey that can make life so rich and wonderful. A journey to greater love. Put one foot in front of the other. May God bless your journey.